Before we begin, I'd like to give a big shout out to Kara the Shapeshifter for this great fan art. It's amazing. I love it. If anyone wants to send fan art, they can do so either as a private message, email, or Twitter. Thank you so much, and now let's continue with the rest of the video. The first two Pokemon games, Red and Green, later to be known as Blue in the States, were released in 1996. Obviously, it was a huge success and became a pop sensation to the masses all over the globe. The follow-up, Yellow, was released in 1998 and was also widely accepted by young kids and teens of the late 90s. This title, while following the same story as the other two, was the first to make changes to the original games, such as making the sprites better looking than the past two versions, making it colorful for the then new Game Boy Color, and making your starter Pikachu that follows you around and refuses to evolve, just like the one in the anime. Why am I bringing this up? Well, Pokemon Yellow was the first game to bring changes to the Pokemon series, albeit just changes with the sprites, inserting Jesse and James of Team Rocket in certain areas, and changing the starter Pokemon to be closely related to the anime. The second generation, Gold, Silver, and eventually Crystal, made even bigger changes. Yes, the aesthetics were upgraded, and there were more Pokemon to catch, but it also added two new types which fundamentally changed battle mechanics in a way we won't see again until X and Y's release. One of these types, Dark, is interesting to say the least. In Japan, it's known as Aku Taipu, or Evil type. And if you look into the lore of many of the Pokemon who share this trait, they definitely earn their dark reputation.
Oh, okay, I see what you did there.
To be perfectly honest, Dark type is interesting in its lore and fundamentally a good typing for competing, but it isn't really my favorite type, nor is it in my top 10. It's a good typing, and it's not my least favorite, it's just not one I like as much as others like Ghost, Fire, or Dragon. That being said, there are a few Dark type Pokemon I really like, and we'll be looking at some of them today. Not all Pokemon on this list are my favorites because of how good they are in battle, I just like their looks or lore. But remember that this is my personal opinion, and if yours differs, then that's just okay with me. I kid you not, one of my favorite dark types is the evolved form of a Pokemon no one wants to encounter in Nuzlocke and Wonderlocks. They're considered trash during these variants of Let's Plays because they're not really that useful late game. At some point, they do end up being the weak link in a team, and they're usually the first to go either by being killed in battle or replaced with a stronger Pokemon. Despite this, I do still really like Mightyena. I realize they're based off the hyena, probably the brown hyena just by judging their looks with Mightyena's shiny version, but to me they look like a German Shepherd. And Shepherds are my favorite breed of dogs, so that's a pretty huge reason why I like this Pokemon. I even named my Mightyena after my German Shepherd, Abby. I just wish it was a little better competitive-wise. Another 10 points to speed and access to some better stab moves would do wonders for this hyena dog and make it a decent choice item user in lower tiers. Perhaps someday, Mightyena. Someday. When you look at a list of Dark-type Pokemon, you start to get the sense that this type has more of an offensive presence in the game than defensive. Almost all of the pure Dark types and a majority of the Pokemon with Dark mixed in with other typing are more built for attacking rather than as a defensive wall or as a supportive cleric for the rest of the team. Umbreon, however, breaks this mold. The only other pure Dark type on this list, Umbreon is pretty much the opposite of this perceived status quo, being one of the few Dark types built to be mostly defensive. It has great bulk, boosting really good stats and HP in both defenses, and access to healing moves such as Heal Bell, Moonlight, and Wish. And if you don't play by Smogon rules, Umbreon can work well in a Trick Room strategy by being able to use Curse and then Baton Pass into your strongest Pokemon to potentially sweep your opponent's team. All of its upsides have also made it the bane of some people's existence, as Umbreon is constantly used as a stall to many opponents who did not plan against this specific team build. However, the most common Umbreon sets are susceptible to taunt users, as most movesets work best with its strengths as a tank, and taunting Umbreon makes it unable to work with what it's good at unless it's switched out. But if you're not prepared, then expect to be driven to madness as Umbreon slowly stalls your entire team, making you insane as it just stands there mocking you for not being able to take it down and allowing it to keep healing itself and poisoning your team, just biding its time and waiting as one by one your team fails to outlive it.
I'm quite scared right now.
I really wish I can use Scrafty better in battle. It's a Pokemon I love to use, but unfortunately I'm not usually able to use it to its greatest potential. Scrafty has a very cool design, being a lizard that looks like it took its own shed skin and made clothes for itself. And paired with a mohawk-like crest, he looks like he'd fit in with a street gang. They have gang mentality too, as Scrafty likes to live in groups. They are very territorial and having a hierarchy with the leader sporting the largest crest. They'd be perfect for Team Skull, it's just too bad they never use one. Missed opportunity there, Game Freak. Scrafty sports good defenses and a fairly good attack stat, but is best used as an offensive attacker. Its speed, however, is pretty bad. He probably should pull up those pants. But refusing to wear a belt, Scrafty instead chooses to use Dragon Dance to increase both speed and attack. Pair it up with Moxie as its ability and it'll just keep getting an added attack boost for every Pokemon it takes down, which makes it a niche threat for anyone able to use it properly. From gang mentality to mob mentality, Honchkrow is one bird you don't want to get on its bad side. They are leaders of a mob of Murkrow, which obviously are related to crows. Did you know that people started calling a flock of crows a murder because there were stories back in the 15th century of crows killing dying cows that came into their territory? Everybody, please remember to protect your milk tanks and keep them in your barnyards or a Pokeball. This has been a public service announcement not really brought to you by Wendy's.
Where's the beef?
While it lacks speed, Honchkrow makes up for it with a Moxie ability just like our previous entry Scrafty, and it has access to some situational priority with Sucker Punch, powerful moves in Brave Bird and Superpower, and if you want to predict your opponent switching, it can use Pursuit for added damage and even a potential KO to start that Moxie boosting. But personally, I like using a riskier set. Mine still has Brave Bird and Sucker Punch, but instead of Moxie, it has the ability Super Luck, which increases Honchkrow's critical hit ratio by 1 stage, and it holds a Razor Claw, boosting the hit ratio up another stage. My Honchkrow also has Night Slash, which has a high chance to crit and roost for longevity. It's not as good competitively as the more common Moxie set, but it's a lot of fun to get multiple critical hits in a row. It can be fun exploiting the game's RNG sometimes. And before we go to number 1, let's talk about some honorable mentions and start with Alolan Meowth. While its evolution's design was a bit disappointing, this new version of Team Rocket's mascot is cool looking. I like its darker design, and I find it interesting that this Meowth is more selfish and prideful than the Kanto version. I'm guessing a hidden message here, something about pride and selfishness being negative or dark emotions? Or am I reading too much into this? I don't know. Next up is the legendary Pokemon of nightmares, Darkrai. Its design is one of my favorites for a legendary, and the lore behind it is very interesting. Darkrai has a situational ability in Bad Dreams which causes sleeping Pokemon to lose health each turn. It's a shame its exclusive move that puts Pokemon to sleep, Dark Void, got an accuracy debuff in Sun and Moon. It kinda made people a little less intimidated to go up against one in battle. Weavile is a Pokemon I was considering to put on this list, but the truth is that while it's much better competitively than Mightyena, I just like the Hyena's design a bit more. But Weavile is still an amazing Dark Ice type that's also the very definition of a glass cannon. Can hit really hard really fast, it just can't take what it dishes out. Finally, I want to briefly mention Zoroark. It has the gimmicky ability Illusion, which lets it impersonate another Pokemon on your team. It can come handy in setting up, just be careful once people figure out Zoroark's trick. It can be pretty predictable after its true self has been revealed. The saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, that's Zoroark's life story in one sentence. Remember when I said in my favorite Alolan Pokemon video that I am a sucker for cool looking dragons? Yeah, that's the case with Hydreigon. It has the best design out of any pseudo-legendary. It has great immunity to psychic and ground type attacks thanks to its typing and levitate ability, making it a good Pokemon to switch into in oncoming Earthquake or Psyshock, and being Dark Dragon is an amazing offensive typing. It has quite a few weaknesses though, so be aware of that when using it. Hydreigon is also very good for battling. It's a great choice for a Scarf set with impressive attack and special attack, making a mixed attack set possible, but more commonly you'll see a special attacking set with the powerful move Draco Meteor, Fire Blast, Dark Pulse, and maybe even Flash Cannon deal with fairy types. But like I stated earlier, Hydreigon is best suited for offense. While it is bulky and a defensive set isn't impossible to successfully use, it's very situational, and that Dark Dragon typing make you weak to very common attacks like Moonblast, Dragon Pulse, and Close Combat. But Hydreigon is still an amazing looking and powerful Dark-type Pokemon that can be an imposing threat and a great choice for many team builds. Immune to 2 types and resists many other common offensive attacks, just be careful when dealing with Pokemon it's weak against, especially fairies. And that's about all I want to say. I enjoy doing these top 5s and I hope you guys like them too. But I've said enough and I want to know your favorite dark types, and with all that, I'll see y'all later.